guys, welcome to this interview with Z, the founder of Plabable. We're so lucky to have Z on board with this. I've known Z actually for about a year. Z, we met about a year ago, I think, wasn't it?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, about a year ago, and I had no idea that this was the founder of Plabable. So it's so exciting to get Z on board and hear a little about his story and his background, and where he is in his career medically, but also a bit about Plabable. And you guys will know Plabable from a mile off. Obviously, it's a huge brand now, and it's doing so much for IMGs around the world. And I know you guys are going to love this because not many people know much about Z, so it'd be good to find out a bit about what makes him tick and a bit about his story. So Z, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you for getting me here. It's lovely to speak to you as well, Aman.
Yeah, it's great. And I know a bit about your story, so I'm excited for people to hear a little bit about it as well. But let's go back to the beginning, Z, because people know you for Plabable, or they will know you for Plabable and coming forward. But you're a clinician, you're a medic, you've just become a GP. What's your story? When did you come to the UK? What was your pathway like?
So for me, I come from Malaysia, and I've always wanted to work in the UK. Unfortunately, prices in the UK to study in the UK, it was crazy. So
Huge.
I was trying to find a way in, and for me, it was Czech Republic. So Czech Republic afforded they had a really good university there, which was affordable. I could go to. I went there, did my studies, and then I went to Sweden to finish off.
Oh, wow.
And after that, I finished off doing obstetrics and gynecology in Sweden. Then I moved to Ireland because I didn't know how to get to the UK at the time. I could work in Ireland without an exam. Coming to the UK, for some reason, I had to sit for the PLAB exam. And I remember feeling so frustrated. I mean, you cannot believe how frustrated I felt, because all my other colleagues who were EU nationals, who graduated from the same university as I did, could come into the UK without any issues whatsoever. They don't have to sit for the PLAB exam because they have an EU passport, they have a British passport. They just crack on, smack, start work right away. Whereas because I had a Malaysian passport, I had to sit for the PLAB, which was really frustrating.
Wow.
So I went to Ireland initially, did a year plus of obstetrics and gynecology. But my wife was here in the UK. So we started going out very young. But we split off because I had no money, so I went to Czech Republic, but she went to King's College in London to study pharmacy.
Okay. So she's from Malaysia as well?
Yeah, she's from Malaysia as well. We
right. I see.
Like 5 minutes away from each other back home.
Okay, wow. Yeah.
And so then she came to the UK. I then struggled in, squeezed in, tried to figure it in. Finally got to do PLAB, and it's all history now, I suppose.
So, wow, so that's amazing. Like, so you're from Malaysia, and you go to med school in Czech Republic.
Mm-hmm.
How was that with the language, firstly? Because it was an English-based course, I guess.
Yeah, it was an English course, but you have to learn the language. So I could speak Czech at that time quite fluently, because you'll be taking histories from patients.
Yeah, of course.
And it was a great experience. You taught really well. I think the only one of the major fallbacks is that you mispronounce a lot of words, not knowing that you're pronouncing it wrong.
You
have a bit more of an American education, so you'll be saying things like beta blockers instead of beta blockers.
Okay,
Things. I mean, you come into the UK, you realize everyone's pronouncing it differently.
That's fascinating. So you must have been in a year with obviously doctors from the Czech Republic, or med students from the Czech Republic, but also from all around the world, I presume.
Yeah, all around the world.
Wow.
Most of them had European passports. I was the only one who didn't have
Right. Okay, so you completed med school in Czech Republic, then you went to Ireland.
Yes. No, I went
to
Sweden.
You didn't have to take... Oh, Sweden first. Okay, what was the reason for that? Why did you jump to Sweden first?
So as part of my course, we were offered... So a few people from Czech Republic were offered sort of scholarships to go to Sweden to finish up their degree there. And I got the opportunity to do obstetrics and gynecology for my last year. So I cracked on. My CV looked amazing for obstetrics and gynecology. And that was my aim. Loved it. That's how I got into obs and gynae initially. Yeah.
Okay. And then from Sweden, you came to Ireland because you were trying to come via Ireland to the UK, basically.
I couldn't get it. I mean, I couldn't work in the UK, right? I couldn't work until I set for PLAB. So I thought Ireland was the only English-speaking country in the whole of Europe. And we were trying to get my wife to come and work in Ireland as a pharmacist.
Right. Okay. Wow.
But that didn't work out because they wouldn't register her in Ireland as a pharmacist.
Oh, I see.
So then we
I
were
see.
stuck with like, what do we do? So eventually
Yeah.
I ended up having to sit for PLAB,
Right.
come to the UK.
Right. So when did you do Plab 1 then? What year are we talking?
2016.
2016. Okay. So not a huge number of years ago. And do you remember preparing for Plab 1? When you were doing Plab 1 preparation, do you think at that point that, I need to do something about it? Like, I can make this better. I can make it easier for people. What did you think? Can you remember preparing yourself for Plab 1 at that point?
Yeah. So I think my initial struggle was I didn't know anything about Plab 1, right? So I didn't have any colleagues that were sitting for Plab 1. All of them were just working in the UK straight away. So I was sort of left on my own trying to figure out how do I do Plab 1. And the only resource out there that I could find of a question bank was, and don't get me wrong, they are a brilliant question bank, absolutely lovely, great material. But that threw me off in some ways because what was happening is their material was very difficult. It was catered for a more difficult exam, I felt.
Yeah.
And I used to get a lot of it wrong and thinking, gosh, how am I ever going to pass the PLAB exam?
Yeah.
It wasn't until much later I discovered that actually the questions in PLAB were much easier. And so I thought, oh, if everyone was going through what I went through, they would not do the PLAB exam because they think it's so difficult. But once they actually understand the level of the questions that come out in the exam, I'm sure they'll be more thrilled to do it. And so that's why I thought, oh, let's help people out here.
So was Plabable's plans born then when you were preparing for Plab 1 yourself?
Yeah, that was when I was. I wouldn't say it's born then. It was
definitely thinking there. Though.
Yeah, I was thinking about it.
Wow. Okay. So you got through Plab 1. Okay, first time.
Yeah, first time, no problem there.
Great. And then Plab 2 soon after, or was there a gap?
No, straight away. So Plab 2 right away after that. Wasn't an issue there as well.
So so you did the usual stuff. You went to an academy and you cleared it pretty soon after taking your academy, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, brilliant. And then so you cleared Plab 2, and then was ONG still in your mind, or what, had the plans changed at that point?
So I started my first year plus, almost close to 2 years, I think, in St. Thomas.
Okay.
St. Thomas in London, doing obstetrics and
gynecology. Right. Okay. Yeah. Great. And that's because your CV was so strong from before.
Yeah. So it was CV. My CV was obstetrics and gynecology all the way. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I loved it, and I still love it. But I think for us to have continued on with Plabable, we needed to pivot slightly, because if I was to specialize too deep into obs and gynae, I would lose the ability to write questions for more of a general market. I wouldn't know how to manage urinary tract infections in normal people anymore, kind of thing. You sort of have to pivot. So I decided, maybe I should take this opportunity to train as a GP to sort of understand general issues and sort of help people come into the UK, help international medical graduates understand the system, like myself, learn how to speak like the British, to act like the British, do what they do, to come into the UK. So that's how it started.
Okay, so you changed into general practice. Was that an easy transition for you, or how did you? Do you remember getting into general practice and the assessments you had to do? Were they okay?
Yeah. I don't think it was. I don't remember it being very difficult. Being that I don't remember it much at all, to be honest. So I think it was pretty. It was a pretty easy process to get in.
So this was 2017, roughly.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay. So then you went into a straight 3-year GP training program. Whereabouts was that?
So I studied in Harlow.
Harlow. Okay.
Now my first choice would have been London, but at that time, I'm not sure if you were aware, Aman, but at that time, non-EUs were not given the first choice of place. So I can't remember what it's called exactly, Aman. You probably know this, market labor rules or something like that, where they have have to give the British and EU doctors the place first before considering a non-EU. So I was very fortunate to get Harlow because it's close to London. And I trained there, and I live in London, so I just drove down there, trained, and came back here every day.
And you're just finished. You've just finished, isn't it? About a month ago, you've come out of training, and now you're a fully qualified GP. And is it what you thought it would be when you made that switch?
Yeah. I mean, I knew it's going to be difficult. I mean, GPs are, they have a hard job, a really hard job, and I did think it was difficult, but I think it was a great switch. I loved it. I loved the career.
Yeah. Good. So now, what are your plans for working as a GP? Are you going to locum? Are you going to look for a more settled role, or have you thought about that bit yet?
Yeah. So I've been full time all the way until August, and then now I'm going to work 2 days a week in the same practice that I've always worked in, and on the rest of the days I'll be focusing on Plabable. So I'll be trying to concentrate on writing material, trying to concentrate on teaching, making sure the international medical graduates understand the level of the Plab exam when they come in. That's my goal.
So it's great. So a lot of people ask about general practice and what are the pros of general practice, and one of them is just this, isn't it? The fact that you can split your week, you can develop your clinical career, but also develop other interests as well, whether it's running a business or doing something else within medicine. So 3 days on Plab, which is great. So that brings it into Plabable then. So the idea came up when you were preparing Plabable on yourself. When did Plabable actually first start helping others? When was it the first person subscribed? How long are we talking?
So we incorporated on the 16th of February 2017.
Okay.
Of course, I have to say it was not easy. It was a difficult process because we did not know anything about incorporating a business. We've always been medics. We don't know anything about tax, anything about shares, and VAT. All that stuff came later, and so we had to sort of sit down with people that could educate us and tell us what to do before we went down this road. And so we incorporated on the 16th of February, 2017. And I remember our first person that joined, my wife and I stood up and like, oh my God, someone paid for it. Can you believe that? Like, we were joy. It was amazing. The feeling was amazing.
So when you launched Plabable, how many questions were on at that time? Can you remember? What was your number that you hit and thought, right, now we can actually put this out as a
It was 500.
500. Okay. And how long did it take you to get to that 500 point from question 1 to getting up to that point, roughly?
About 12 months. 12 months for me to prepare 500 questions.
Wow.
It was tough. Yeah.
And this was it all in GP training, or was this you started doing this beforehand, or while you were doing obs and gynae?
So this was all while doing obs and gynae, and also sitting for Plab 1 and Plab 2.
Okay.
That's when I started writing up these questions, and I thought this is really going to help the international medical graduates.
Yeah. So that's a great lesson there itself. I mean, 12 months from start to even thinking about will someone ever be able to purchase it. That's a long time, a lot of effort, a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I can imagine the feeling when you get that first ping. Wow, someone has trusted us enough to give us some money to try and help get to an exam. Amazing feeling, I can imagine. Yeah. And then I guess it's growing from strength to strength. So number of questions wise, now where are we up to with Plabable?
The last time I checked, I think it was about 2,300.
2,300, okay. And how many of those are you writing Z yourself of those 2,300?
I think about 99%, or maybe 98%.
99%. Wow. And is there a system involved in this? Do you have targets for this? How do you go about doing it? Because, there must be some days where you feel like, I can't be bothered to write questions, and some days where you're in kind of fire mode. Like, is there a system? So
the system that I have is whenever I have a chance to write is when I write it. So this could be in a tube that I'm writing. I'll be writing on my phone. I could be waiting outside a clinic, writing it. Back in the days where you had to sort of wait for your consultant to get you something or whatever. You just wait outside. You'll be writing a question. Wow. Anytime I get a chance, I'll be writing a question. My team is also great. So they also contribute with a lot of questions, and I review it and then I put it back on. So some questions are not written by me; they're written by some of my team members. But it would have to go through my eyes before it goes up. So at least someone's checking.
And that's a different thing in itself, isn't it? Writing your own question has got its own challenges, but editing someone's question is another challenge altogether. It takes a different view, isn't it? Different mindset.
Yeah, that is true.
And sometimes takes just as much time as writing the question in the first place. depending on the quality of the question that comes.
You are right. And I think people forget that. And so we have a lot of people that write to us and ask us, can we write questions for you guys? And I would love to say yes, because I would love people to contribute to help international medical graduates. But the problem is, you are absolutely right. It takes sometimes more time to assess someone's question and their explanations than writing it yourself. And so that's one of the issues that we face.
And this is something that, I'll be honest, I didn't really appreciate, because we've recently launched our mock center now about 4 or 5 months ago. And it was the one thing we didn't do. We do audios, we do face-to-face teaching, we do online teaching, but we didn't have questions. So to create mock exams, I realized just how much time it takes, not just to write the question, but more so to edit it. So we have our own now lead for the mock center who does it all for us. And it's taken a big weight off my shoulders, because it was a huge piece of work, and I'm sure an ongoing one for you. But you're doing a lot more of that now, I guess, now that you're out of GP training, and you can spread your time a little bit more focusedly, I should say. I guess you're going to be coming out with more and more questions as time goes on.
Yeah. So this morning I've written 4 already. So it took me the morning to write up these 4 questions. It was it's a great start. You wake up at 6:30, you crack on with all the things you can write. So it's good. I think the question.
What were the topics of these 4?
One was a urinary tract infection, and it is basic topics.
On your mind.
In fact, one was a transgender woman, and I thought that was quite an interesting topic that I had to do my reading myself to understand how it works before you write it up. So those were the topics I wrote this morning.
Can you remember the other 2? There's 2 of them.
What was the other 2? One was about Alzheimer's. It was an ethical question. And the last one,
cardiology, respiratory, TNO, pediatrics, who knows? You write so many.
Yeah.
But I suppose when it's in and it's checked and it's in the system, then it's gone, isn't it? You move on it. But what about the update process? Because there's a lot of organizations who write questions out there, but sometimes we get feedback that the questions are out of date and guidelines have changed, etc. So how do you guys make sure that you're on top of all of that stuff? Because the more number of questions you have, the harder it gets to stay on top of it.
Yeah. So that's why it's good to sort of read up every NICE guideline that's launched, right? Any BTS sign guideline that's launched, we read up on it. It's good that our team consists of a lot of medical registrars, obstetric registrars, surgical registrars. So whenever they have an update on their side, they let me know and say, by the way, this part has changed. You might need to update some of your questions. And it's really, really helpful.
And then, okay, so a guideline comes out, but then have you guys got a system, I'm sure you have, where you can pinpoint all those questions that relate to that straight away? Or do you have to go trawling through all 2,000 to find the ones that you have to change? Because one thing, knowing about a new guideline, and it's another thing, making sure all your questions reflect that.
Yeah, so literally we had to go through every question that was chickenpox and pregnancy.
Yeah.
And change that. And so that's what we have to do. Yeah. We have to go through every question. It's tough.
And it's tough, isn't it? It's tough. And I guess people who benefit from Plabable won't see that side of it. And that's why I think you guys have become the story that you are, the size that you are, because of all this kind of little detail that people are going to pick up on. Yeah. Because it's one thing to write questions and put them out and think my job's done, but it's the harder bit is keeping it all up to date and keeping the standards to a level where it's helping other people in the way that it should, rather than here's just more and more questions, but the quality is decreasing.
Yeah.
And that's what I think makes Plabable stand out, because you mentioned Plab 1, and Plabable is what springs to mind with most doctors, and I guess I don't know what the percentage is, but I guess a fairly high percentage of doctors taking Plab 1 are going to be using your stuff. And where's this going, Z? Like, what's the future of Plabable? What are the things that are on the horizon? Can you tell people a few things to look out for? what's on its way? Where's it going?
So my wife and I have this vision that hopefully one day we can open an academy. And this might be a 10-year project where we can help international medical graduates come into the UK. We can also help local students study for their exit exam. So that is where we are going with this. We want to make sure that we have a physical component, that we can run courses physically. We also want to have an online presence where we can cater for people who cannot attend the physical stuff. And so we will crack on with questions, with webinars, with online teaching, and at the same time have a place that people can come to and feel like they're having that physical element, where there's going to be nice cafes to catch up with other people and teaching facilities. So that's the idea of what we want to do. We want to grow this into a company, an academy that helps all junior doctors get into work essentially.
Yeah. Amazing. And having that vision is so important, right? Just to get you through the nitty gritty of the challenges of, I can't bother to write a question today. Like having that vision is super important, because if it was just about, I just want to reach this X number of questions, it's probably not big enough to drive you through those challenging days, because it's challenging running a business, right? I mean, being a doctor is challenging in one way, but running a business is challenging in a totally different way.
Yeah, I think it helps to have a team and a spouse that's very devoted as well. So, my wife, she would get up as early as I am, just cracking on with work. She sleeps late, cracking on with work. We both work hard. And I think if one of us was not working hard and the other one was, it wouldn't work out.
Yeah.
I think you need a spouse or team members that work equally as hard as you do. And that's a way to succeed, I suppose.
100%. And I'd say the same thing as Pooja on our side. She's the driver behind a lot of it. And I suppose I'm the one that people know. I'm the one that's on the videos. I'm the one that's on the material. But she's the driver behind all the work as well. And it's a really important point you mentioned. If you're not on the same wavelength as somebody, it doesn't matter how much effort you put in, the end result's going to be diminished, isn't it? So it's a great point. Great point. Let's go back to Plabable, because Plabable is obviously what people probably want to know more about in terms of the story. Let's go away from the question side of it. What are the commonest reasons that people will contact you for advice? Let's think about people preparing for Plab 1, because it's a scary prospect. You're about to embark on a journey to a completely new country. You may not have any contacts there at all. What are the biggest fears that you've seen people have when it comes to Plab 1, and the commonest reasons they will contact Plabable for help, other than questions?
So I think people want to understand the difficulty of the Plab exam. And not having done it, I think everyone's a bit scared, isn't it? They don't know what to expect. And so that's one of the most common questions we get, like, how's the Plab exam like? What's the difficulty level? And I tell them it's quite clear, it's going to be the standard of an FY2 doctor. So whatever you think a second year, foundation year doctor would know, that's going to be the level that you should know as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty much the biggest question that we are asked.
And so people come to you for your questions, but you've also got some other things that you do. You do the webinars you mentioned.
Correct.
And you have your Plab 1 course that you run virtually, I guess, at the moment, but you have done face-to-face before, haven't you, as well, for your Plab 1 courses?
Yes. So the courses are done by myself, Adam Jakes, who's the obstetric registrar, does a course with me as well. He's a great teacher, really enthusiastic. We've got Hannah Barrett, who's with us as well. She's a medical registrar. And Zian, who's a neurology registrar. He does fantastic with the neuro lectures. These are hardcore people. They come in every course and they help out tremendously. They're a great team to have, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like a really good team, and it has to be for something to grow so quickly and to help as many people as you want to help. Yeah. Because ultimately it's down to, as you said, yes, you can put out as many things as you like, as many products as you like, but it's about helping people get through what is quite a difficult obstacle in people's careers sometimes. And you must have seen people who have done Plab 1 once, twice, 3 times, really struggling, confidence down, what would your advice be to someone who's taken Plab 1 2 or 3 times and has not got through yet, and is reaching the decision where it's my final go and I'm super stressed? What would you advise?
So I would say, look, if you've done it 2 or 3 times, that means you're the most experienced person there, isn't it? You've done the exam so many more times than the person going in for the first time. That means you know the level, you know what's likely going to be asked. And if you remember how the questions were formatted and the level it was, you could easily study for the exam. So with those odds, you are likely to pass. And you can take it up to 4 times. So, even if you fail the 3rd time, you still got one more chance, and that's okay.
Yeah. And no one knows whether you're someone who passed on number 4 or number 1. Your pass is a pass at the end of the day.
Correct.
So you've just got to clear that hurdle.
No one's going to ask how many times you sat for it.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing an interview like this, no one's going to ever ask you. It's not going to be a job interview that they ask you. They're not going to ask you your score. Unlike the US MLE, where they do ask you for your score. That's important, isn't it?
Yeah. And you're right. When people come to us with failing exams 2, 3, 4 times, you're right. It's about selling that. Look, every time you start preparing for an exam again, you're not starting at 0. You're starting at a high base level. You're starting at a good 50, 60%, and now you're building on it. So your preparation this time is very different to the last time. It's not like you have to do all again. And sometimes giving people those little things that, those little confidence boosters, it's just as important as giving them material and extra questions, because, when someone gets to an exam 4th time, they've put the work in. Like, it's not through lack of work. Sometimes technique changes need to be learned. Sometimes little tweaks in the way that you look at certain questions. And those things I think are really important for an MCQ type exam. If you keep on failing it, it may not be that you're not working hard enough. People say, well, just go and work more, do more questions. But actually sometimes little changes in technique might be useful. And I guess that's the kind of stuff that you can teach more when you're on your face-to-face courses, rather than just through a question bank, because people just do more and more questions, but probably make the same kinds of technical mistakes again and again and again.
Yeah, you're right.
Lead to big drops in numbers. And whether it's 1st go or 4th go, if you don't correct that technique side of it, harder work, longer hours, more questions doesn't necessarily mean you're going to tip that balance. So yeah, and I think and that's, we see that with AKT. You've done the AKT exam, MRCGP Part 1. And then a lot of people fail that, not because they don't know their stuff, not because they haven't done enough questions, but because their technique is not set out for that type of exam and it needs tweaking. But giving people the confidence that, look, if you got this far, you'll get through this as well. It just needs to be maybe a little bit of digging into why you're answering certain things in the way that you are.
That's true. That is absolutely true.
And you've done MRCGP, so that's where we got to meet. And again, I was really surprised. We met at a CSA course, and obviously I knew of Plabable. This would have been how long ago, Deep? What, about 18 months ago? Maybe a year ago, maybe.
It would be a year ago.
Yeah,
roughly, yeah.
That's right. And yeah, I had no idea. I knew of Plabable at that point because we were already teaching for Plab, and the name Plabable comes up everywhere. But I had no idea that you were associated with Plabable, and I think it was maybe 6-7 months after you'd passed CSA that you dropped me a message just to catch up, and that's when we met, with that link was made.
That is right. Yeah, absolutely right.
And I remember meeting you on that. I remember meeting you way back, not knowing this information. But how did you find that? Because obviously I've taught you. You're an educator. How was that day?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great course. It's nice and small. You have that personal touch. I thought it was really good, and I think anyone that's doing CSA would need to go through a course. And I really think your course was amazing. I really learned a lot from it. Definitely.
Thanks. That's really kind. I still remember meeting you thinking, this guy's smart, man. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't need a course. He's going to be fine.
No, that's not true. I think you've got a lot of skills there, of things that you got to really think about for the exam, and unless you go for a course, you're not gonna think about it.
Well, it's like any exam, isn't it? You can do all the work that you like, but then you sometimes just need to understand what is the exam looking for. What is, what from the other side? What's the viewpoint? Even with Plab 1, like you said, you can just go and do thousands of questions. But if you haven't looked at the Plab blueprint, if you haven't understood what areas are going to be tested, if you haven't understood the types of questions that are coming, then, thousands of hours of work doesn't necessarily mean you're going to pass the exam. So it's that smart work. And I think courses sometimes can help with that side of things rather than the teaching stuff, because anyone can go and learn the material at some point. But those other bits can sometimes help. But so where are you going now? Let's say a year from now, where are you, and where is Plabable in a year from now, do you think?
So we are expanding quite big, I think. We've already got a team of 30 people. 8 of them are IT. We've got 4 FY2s. I think we've got about 6 registrars helping us with material. And we are pushing for a bigger team. Obviously, we want to make sure that we have a solid team that really builds the brand. And so far, none of our team has ever left us. They're helping out. They're really ensuring that the company grows, which is great to know, because I think you want a family, really, rather than someone who just comes and works for 2 months and then leaves. So you really want to maintain that, and I really enjoy it. I think we will be expanding to introduce more things on the app. Of course, it's not easy, because anything that's IT, it's crazy difficult to develop. So
and temperamental as well.
Yeah.
And temperamental as well with IT.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, very difficult. So that's where we're going with.
But exciting. Exciting progress in the offering.
Yeah. That's right.
Good. So, and if people do want to get involved, can they just literally approach and say, look, is there any way I can get involved? I'm interested in medical education, because we get this all the time. People say, can I join your team? I'm really into this. Can I write questions? Can I write cases? Can I come and teach? You must get that all the time.
Yeah, we do. And we try our best not to turn anyone down. But the truth is that, like you said, there's some things that will make it more difficult for us. If someone were to write questions, for example, then it takes more time for us to review their questions. So that's not going to be beneficial, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we've got great people working with us. We've even got some volunteers as well. So we've got 9 volunteers who are doing teaching and just trying to help out help international medical graduates out. So they're really, really helpful, and amazing team, really.
And that speaks volumes for you guys, because for people to come and want to offer their time, valuable time, that shows how much you guys have as a company. Because if people want to come and do that for free to build experience, I mean, that tells volumes of the energy and the ethos of the company that's behind it. So credit to you guys, because from what I can see, you're only going one way. Plabable already is helping thousands of doctors worldwide, and that's only going to get bigger and bigger. And I think it's watch this space, I think, and see how far you guys and how fast you guys go. But let's take you right back to the Plab 1 doctor who's using your stuff then, because that's your core base. That's the people that are using your material. If you think about your time in Plab 1, what 3 things would you advise them in terms of tips for preparing for Plab 1? If you're about to start preparation right now, your exam, say in 4 months' time, what are 3 things you'd suggest to them that they should definitely do at some point?
So I think the first thing would be get into a study group, whether it's a WhatsApp group or a Telegram group or someone you know of that's nearby who lives down the road. Get in touch with them, study together, because studying alone would mean that you're not essentially studying the correct thing. I think you want to make sure that you're studying the correct level. Some people, they overstudy things, and they might overstudy medicine and not obstetrics, for example. So that's why you might score very well in the medical part, but obstetrics you don't. And I think by having a study partner or study group, they balance you out. They say, look, forget the super difficult questions. The 1 mark, the chance of that coming out in the exams like 1 out of 10,000, right? Let's focus on the more common things, and that group's going to help.
Great point. So study group number 1, very important point.
The second thing would be, write notes. I would say write notes is a really important thing, because people tend to just study on the Plabable question bank, and they just keep going next, and it's different for compared to if you were to writing or typing out your notes and putting it in your head. Look, this is the hard one. I want to come back to that. I want to flag that question. I want to come back to that at the end of the day. I think repetition is the key. So make sure you are writing your notes. Make sure you're flagging those questions. That would be my second point.
Great. So study groups number 1. Make sure you write your own notes number 2. And the third one?
I would say work hard, right?
Work hard.
So people always say, there's a lot of luck in the exam, isn't it? You could be given a paper that's really easy, or you could be given a paper that's really difficult, right? But I think, I'm going to use the words of my first ever consultant who taught me obstetrics and gynecology. And he stopped me and he always said, Z, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And that's essentially the gist of the exam. The harder you work, the luckier you get. Doesn't mean you'll pass, but the chance of you passing is much higher compared to someone who doesn't work hard. So I think put a lot of effort in, make sure that, you take the element of luck out as much as possible and pass the exam. Yeah.
So great point. Study group, definitely. Peer groups always help you push yourself a little bit more than you want to when you're on your own. Notes, excellent. It's one thing to read your own stuff. When you've written it, it solidifies a bit more in your mind. And thirdly, 100% work hard. You can't walk into an exam like this, hope to be lucky, but have not put the work in. You're absolutely right. The harder you work, the luckier you get. And actually, just the harder you work, the more percentage chance you're giving yourself to achieve, which is later on down perceived as lucky. I was lucky because I got things that I knew. But why did you know those things? Because you put the work in. Yeah. So yes, element to that, but there's a reason behind why the statement works, I guess. and if someone else will turn and say, oh, they were really lucky. But the chances are they did a tenth of the work. It all comes around in circles, doesn't it? But yeah, amazing point. And things that I think, Plabable is not an easy exam. People who pass it will turn around and say, oh, it's easy. But they will forget the amount of time that they put in to make it easy. And right. So when you hear people saying, oh, don't worry, it's Plab 1, it's easy, just don't worry, you'll be fine. Take it with a pinch of salt.
Correct. You're absolutely right there. Everyone who passes an exam is going to say it's easy. There is no way someone passes the exam and says, oh, man, I really struggle with that exam. Most of them will just say it's easy, isn't it?
And the ones who don't pass are going to blame their luck.
Yeah, right.
Isn't it? That's just the way the system is. But look, amazing. And also one thing I'd add to that is find out the way that you learn best. Because sometimes just because someone is great at reading up on guidelines and learning it, that doesn't mean that that's going to be your system. Find out the way that learns you best, because that you learn best. Because working smart is not just putting in the hours. Working smart is doing stuff that is actually helping you, whether it be writing your own notes. The reason we create audios, for example, some people learn through listening. Like they don't learn through reading masses of information, but they learn through listening. Some people can't learn through listening, so therefore reading and writing notes is fine. So I think smart working, understanding your own learning system, and then maximizing on it is another really important point. And I think that's super useful, and hopefully we'll get something out of that. And if they're about to start Plab preparation, then hopefully they're going to use those things to their advantage. But thank you so much, man. It's been really, really useful and really nice to hear a bit about your story from Malaysia to where are you based now? London, isn't it? Which part of London?
Yeah. So I'm still based in Harlow. I'm still working there.
Oh, so, Harlow. Sorry, yeah.
I still I live in London. It's just only a 30-minute drive up to work and then come back.
Super happy to have done this. I think it's really, really useful for people who know your brand to know about UZ, because you've got a fascinating story, and hopefully it's going to go from strength to strength. And hopefully we can do some stuff in the future together. I'm sure we'll be crossing paths at some point going forward.
I would absolutely love to.
And I'd love to meet up once all this crazy time ends. It'd be good to get a coffee and talk medical education, talk Plab, and see how you're developing.
Definitely, Aman.
Cool. Thank you, buddy. Before we go, how can people there's a very small percentage of people who don't know where to find you now, but what are your handles, website, Facebook, where can they find Plabable?
So I think if you just go on to www.plabable.com, all the information is there. You know, you have your Facebook links, your Instagram links, your Twitter links, everything's there. It's all in one place. The courses are there, the webinars are there, the podcasts are there, the big mock is there. So everything is in one place. Just go for that, have a read. If you can't find where something is, you can always just drop us an email and we can show you as well. So no problem, all right, guys. So you guys will be fine.
Amazing. And do check it out if you haven't already, because it is some super stuff. Thank you, Reddy. And hopefully we'll catch up again very soon.
Definitely, Aman. All right.
Take care. Bye.
See you then. Bye.